Turn that off. It's time for No Pad Sports Talk. Stay tuned as two brothers bring you the latest from your Michigan teams and beyond in hockey, baseball, football, and more. Let's get started. Here are your hosts, JD and Steve.
Welcome to another edition of No Pad Sports Talk. I am one of your hosts, JD.
And I'm Steve, and we are here a week later. Unfortunately, we didn't get that midweek episode in. We had some storms blow through here during the week, and the day that we were going to record, I actually lost my internet for several hours, so we weren't able to record a show that day, but we are here to we're back. We want to I think we're going to be talking football today as far as the Lions finished up their preseason.
Yes, they did. And they beginning of the game for the third preseason game did not look so pretty at the beginning. They just seemed to not be able to stop really anything. It just and I know it wasn't necessarily, starters versus starters. I get all that, but it just sucked to watch at the beginning.
Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater played in the first half. I thought in the end he kind of had a fairly decent game considering he's only been with the team for 2 weeks. So that I was glad to see a progression from the first game he played to the second game that he played. Unfortunately, and I only say this because I don't really like to see players get hurt in the last preseason game leading, when they're talking about roster cuts. Now, I know from a team's standpoint that might make it a little easier when they're trying to make cuts, but and I'm not a big fan of Nate Sudfeld, but I also didn't want to see him go down 5 plays into his second half, right?
Right.
And according to the reports that I read, looks like it was a hyperextended knee. And anyone who's ever actually done that knows, one, how scary it can be because you don't know, what you've done to it, right? Mm-hmm. But it takes some time to heal. But Adrian Martinez came in as, we'll call him, for that game, as a third-string quarterback, came in and played the rest of that half, or most of that half. Trying to see if we had another quarterback come in. Because I did not watch the whole game. I know the defense still looked pretty stout. Right there at the end, I think there was an interception. Stephen Gilmore has made a name for himself.
Yes.
As a cornerback for this team. And we'll be talking about him here in a little bit, I'm sure. But yeah. So that was that. The stats. Oh yeah. So Sudfeld was actually in. He had 5 attempts. So, but yeah, Martinez played the rest, and he didn't even throw the ball a whole lot. He only threw the ball 11 times, and he played almost the entire second half. So. Ironically enough, when you look at the total numbers by all 3 quarterbacks, 33, 38 pass attempts, and 21, 15, 26, 26 rushing attempts. So, 62 plays overall in that game. Right. But again, like you said, it didn't look great, right? Again, I keep saying this, but the offense, it just takes time. right? And again, we haven't had our starters in there. We still got people that are trying to get adjusted and acclimated to themselves. There was one good play. That receiver, his last Green, Antoine Green,
right? Mm-hmm.
had a nice game, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. Had a 70-yard reception.
70-yard, yep.
Yeah, like I wasn't sure where Bridgewater was actually throwing it because I thought he had the deep guy on the go route open, but he just sort of flipped it, and Green came across the middle of the field at the last second, and everybody broke on that ball defensively. So there were like 4 defenders around that ball. So one, the accuracy of the throw. 2, the concentration of the receiver to be watching that, and then just how fast he was after catching the ball. Like as soon as he caught it, because he caught it in stride, and he was gone. Because basically the safeties and everybody dropped off the deep route to pull up when they saw Teddy Bridgewater throw that pass, so they broke on the ball, and that just left the back end of the field completely open. So it was a beautiful play, for an offense that has been fairly anemic during the preseason games, right?
Yep.
So we scored 26 points in this game. Excuse me.
We got a pick 6, so that's 7 of it. So really, the offense scored 19. There was a couple
There
field
you go.
goals.
Yep. So, we had a 21-point game, a 7-point game, and then on offense, well, and I think, did we have a pick 6? Is that the first one we had?
I think so, yeah.
So, we just haven't scored a lot of points. But again, none of our starters played in those games offensively. So really what we're going to be seeing is, well, what I'm hoping is that we're not going to see players that are a little out of sync, our first stringers, because they haven't had a lot of time in live action. They had joint practices with both the Giants and Jacksonville, and the reason, that we heard in the news outlets that the starters weren't going to play is because they had some really good live type play during practices.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just something about, live action play and being in the mix that really prepares you for that regular season. And I'm just hoping that the fact that they didn't get out there, that we're not going to see a blowout after the first half against Kansas City, right? I mean, the defense has played well, but our defense is still, I think our DBs, while not, again, the starters weren't out there playing, so that the backup, while they played well, there were still some lapses in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to, I don't want to take away from anything that the defense was doing because I don't really know what we're going to have. I'm still high on what I think the Lions can do. I'm just a little nervous about what it's going to look like week 1. Right? So as I'm looking at their first, they got Kansas City and then they got Seattle. Right? And then they have Atlanta, Green Bay, Carolina, and Tampa Bay. And that's their first 6 games. Okay? Seattle's not going to be any slouch. Now, they are coming, Seattle's playing at Ford Field, so it's going to be a little bit different, right? It's not like going out to San Diego or Seattle and having to play, in that stadium, which is a very loud stadium thanks to the 12th man.
Right.
Right? So, we don't really know what we're going to get out of Atlanta. They've got a very young team. They got a second-year quarterback now who's hasn't played. He's played okay, right? I guess there's been some good word about that. Green Bay, I'm a little nervous now Jordan Love actually looked really good in the preseason, so I'm a little nervous about that. There's been a lot of good things said about Baker Mayfield down in Tampa, and then we have Baltimore after that, and Las Vegas. So up until their bye week, like their schedule's not what I would call a walk in the park, right?
Yeah.
Like there's not a warm up game that I would call a warm up game here. Maybe Atlanta, maybe, right? Maybe Carolina because they're gonna be young. They got a rookie quarterback, but that for those first 8 games, it's not a walk in the park there for them. So I know we haven't done our predictions because we're gonna wait until after the final cut down. But I've been saying double-digit wins, but I may have to pull back on it just a little bit. I don't know. Not a lot, but it, and I only say that because I haven't seen the team play.
That's the problem. We haven't seen. I've been saying it for a while, right? That the team's gonna go as far as Goff takes them.
That's right.
Goff looked great in the second half of last season, and if he plays like that, Lions are gonna go far. But we haven't seen him play, so. A lot of the training camp stuff. We heard a lot of stuff saying that he looks better than he was last year. But I also read some stuff where, he was throwing some interceptions even during, training camp. So,
Correct.
What is it, right? Like, it does look better than last year? Is he throwing interceptions? Like, we're not really getting a clear picture on just exactly how good, he's doing, and we haven't seen it. And just like you were kind of saying, I don't feel good about the first teams not having any snaps together in the preseason and going to go play against like the best team in the NFL in Kansas City. That dispels disaster for me.
Yeah. I mean, even the Jets had Aaron Rodgers play at least the first 2 series, right? Just to get out there and have some play, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I understand they don't want their guys getting hurt leading into the regular. I get it. I do. But they could get hurt in preseason game 3 or they can get hurt in week 1. The difference is 2 weeks in making the 53-man roster. That's really all I see the difference in, right?
I remember, man, I can't remember what year it was, but some other, I think it might have been the Lions too, but a number of years ago, a team did that, protected their first stringers, didn't let them play during the preseason, and in the first 3 or 4 games, they had 6 or 7 people go down. And a lot of people were saying it's just because they didn't get a chance to really play in the preseason, so they didn't get the muscles weren't ready and they weren't stretched out and all that kind of stuff and but I don't know, I personally don't think it makes a ton of difference. Obviously, the more snaps you have, there's a greater chance that something's going to happen on one of those snaps because it's just numbers and statistics, right? But but like you said, I don't really believe that if you play your guys in the preseason that it's necessarily going to hurt them because they can get hurt on the first drive of the first regular season game. So
yeah,
I don't want to play the whole game. Don't get me wrong, but definitely having them play a couple drives, I think would have that's what I would have chosen if I was the coach. Let's play a couple drives.
Exactly. So let's talk. I mean, the world champs, right? Because that's who we're going to play first, right? In that game, so in that week 3, they didn't play their starters, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he did play in games, right? So I'm trying to find the right game here. Patrick Mahomes in week 2 of preseason was 10 to 15, right? But he got some live action with the rest of his starters, right? The guys
Yeah.
were out there, they were playing. So even the world champs, with probably, arguably, the best quarterback in the league right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even had their guy go out and get some live reps, right?
Their quarterback, their running back, their Travis Kelsey, right?
They're,
Like,
they're $400 million quarterback,
yep,
right? So
yep.
I just, I'm a little, I don't know. We're not. I guess that's why we're not general managers. I don't know.
I don't
But
know, man.
we kind of agree on the fact that you get your guys out there, even in the old format, right? Because you talked about how players went down, like because they didn't get to play. So there was a when the NFL went back from 4 games to 3 games for the preseason,
Mm-hmm.
which was just a few years ago. That was when you saw a lot of, in the first couple of weeks, a lot of starters go down with injuries, pulled muscles, whatever, right? Because they didn't get a lot of playing time in those first 3 games because teams were like, I only got 3 games to determine what other players are going to make out my 53-man roster, right? So they're like, I've got 11 guys on offense. I have 11 guys on defense that I know these guys are going to make it. That's 22. Here's my special team players, right? So now they still got to pick up. Let's just call it 30 players. So they just didn't play a lot of the starters, and there was a lot of people who got hurt that year. But I don't know. It's not my favorite thing in the world, so it makes me a little nervous. If they
Right.
come out and they shock me in week 1 against Kansas City, and they get out there, and they're competitive, I will eat my words, right? I don't want to call myself a bandwagon guy. I'm not. I was super excited about what the Lions were going to bring this year, but just a little nervous because I don't know what they really have because we haven't had a chance to see it.
We haven't seen it, but
Like not seeing Jameer Gibbs, what can he do? Like Jack Campbell, we saw, right? Some of our young players, we saw some things. Brian Branch, but as a whole cohesive unit, we just haven't seen
right
it.
now we saw Gibbs, but you didn't because that's when you couldn't watch the game.
Yeah,
But all I gotta say about Gibbs is he just looked super fast. I mean, it's just fast and quick. Like when he was in and he got the ball in his hands, it was completely different than another running back with the ball in his hands. I mean, it was just how quick he was, hitting the hole, trying to get outside. I don't know. It was night and day. I mean, it really was that big of a difference.
Okay.
But again, he was also running behind the second string offensive line. So, I mean, like you said, we haven't really seen, the entire first team unit. So,
Right.
but, we're here talking about like what they have, and that's kind of what we're kind of going to do today. Talk about
Yep.
the Lions, and then let's just see like what they have remaining, right? As far as their rosters.
Yep.
Who they got left on the roster, who they're going to cut down. So I got this up here. Let me go back up to the top. So right now they got a total of 76 players on the roster, right? And there's 23 left that need to be cut. Now I read an article, and Kempa was saying that even though it was a Lions that brought up a rule about having an emergency quarterback in the games, that they might not carry 3 quarterbacks. They might carry
Right.
2 because they want to still save that one roster spot. And I kind of looked at this a little bit earlier, and as we're going through this, we can kind of see like why they're going to want that one additional roster spot because tough decisions are going to have to be made. right?
Right.
So, like, if you look at this here, you know, we got Hooker here, and
Yep.
he's currently on the active list, right? But he's gonna go on the injured list begin the year, right? So he's not gonna really
Correct.
count against it, I don't think. And that would have to be one of the 23 moves, I'd imagine. I don't
Right.
know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is he going to be like he has to make the 53-man roster, and then they can put him on the IR, and then it opens up another spot that they can bring somebody back?
I,
Because
bel
I actually
I
read
think they could
something.
put him on the IR without him making 53. I think.
Okay. Because like Nate Sudfeld, just because of his knee injury, I read an article today that said something similar to that, right? Like they could waive him,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then because of the injury, he'd probably clear waivers. No one's going to pick up the injured, an injury, right? But they'll
Right.
put that injury restriction on him, saying that he's injured, of course, with a possibility of maybe getting him back onto the practice squad,
But if we
right?
just look at if we don't even count Hooker yet, right?
Yep.
I think we can pretty much agree that Sudfeld and Martinez are gone, right?
I agree. I think
So
Teddy Bridgewater did enough in 2 weeks to show that he has enough command of the offense to come in as a backup.
so that's going to be 2 of the 23 we need.
Yep.
Right, come down here to running backs. Right, we got the fullback. He's going to make it. Montgomery, Gibbs, Reynolds, these 3 will probably make it.
Yep.
So that leaves
And
Jefferson and Snell.
actually, I already heard. It sounded like Jefferson. I read an article. Jefferson and Snell both got waived.
That's what I'd expect. So that's 2 more gone, right?
Yep.
Now wide receivers. I think we can all agree that more than likely these 4 are in. I don't see anything happening to those 4 receivers.
Yep.
So do they keep 5? Do they keep 6?
Well, hold on. Who's not on that list right now?
Well, he's down here, suspended list.
There it is. Gotcha.
So
Suspended.
they're already counting him,
Okay.
right?
Got it.
So,
The advertisement block cut it off, and it was
Yeah.
hard to see it.
it
Okay.
did. Yeah.
I was like,
So,
"Dude, happened and I missed it."
So even though Maurice Alexander had a couple good returns, I think he's gone.
Yep. I think Green could be the return guy.
See, but Coda also did returns.
Yep. And I think like that's the difference between Chase Cota and Dylan Drummond. I didn't see Drummond take any returns.
No, I didn't either.
I think Drummond's Cota's been a hot hand with the backups.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't know what it's looked like with the wins, right? So it'd be hard for me to say, but I think Coda gets put on the practice squad. I mean, and probably Alexander. So I'm gonna go
with Drummond and Green.
and I'm keeping Antoine Green and Dylan Drummond.
I'm keeping Green and Coda.
Okay.
But either way, we're both going to be cutting 2.
Cutting 2
Just to see if
receivers.
the numbers work. Right.
Yep.
So tight ends. Daniels is gone. Right. So that's one guy. They're going to probably carry 3 tight ends.
I don't know if they'd carry 3, but I guess.
That's up to you. Do you want to go to 2?
I think I'd cut 2. One goes to the practice squad, and one gets their outright release.
So you would cut 2 there.
Yep.
I'd cut 1. All right. Offensive line. So again, Decker, Jackson, Ragnow, Vaitai, Sewell, Glasgow, probably Sorsdale and Nelson. I'd say those guys are probably a lock.
Yeah.
Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 offensive linemen there.
That's 8.
So that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys currently that would be on the team.
Yeah, I can't see them carrying more than 8 linemen.
I can't either. So I'd cut those 5.
That's 5 more.
and then the interior defensive line. Now, here's where it's going to start getting interesting, right?
Right.
I think this is going to be tough. Because, again, interior defensive linemen, there's currently 7 on the roster. How many are they going to carry? I mean, Aleem McNeil and Bugs, you got to carry, right? I think he's gone. I wouldn't say probably Benito Jones, Durden, and Smith. Like, I think you can get rid of 4 guys here from the interior defensive line.
Yeah, which I think at that point they're going to try and bring somebody in after the final cuts, because I don't know if 4 interior defensive linemen is enough for rotational purposes.
I think it's fine for rotational purposes. I mean, if you're looking at, they're going to be in the 3-4 a lot, right?
Yep.
And then even in the 4-3, you still got, you're only playing 2.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's enough, but we can, again, so it's what you would cut, right? And what I would cut. Like, if this was the case, I would cut 1, 2, 3. I'd cut 4.
And I think I'd cut 3.
If I were to hang on to another one, I'd hang on to Levi just because he still has some upside. But I just don't. I don't know. He's just been so bad. But now on the edge, here we go. Hutchinson, Harris, Kaminsky, Pascal, Houston, and the Aquara brothers, right?
Yep.
I mean,
so I think Houston, Hutchinson, and Harris are in, and I think one of the brothers will make it.
Kaminsky's in. That guy's not going anywhere.
Okay.
So, Hutchinson, Kaminsky, Houston, and then, one of the Aquara brothers.
One of the brothers.
I don't think Harris is going to make it. He's just been too injured. And he had that one good year, but after that, he's kind of disappeared. So, but either way, we're cutting 3, right?
Yep.
Linebackers. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4 guys are going to make it for sure.
Yeah, so 1, 2, 3. I'm going with Alex. Yeah, the first 4. I mean, Reese Maven hasn't had a bad preseason.
No, he hasn't.
But I just don't know if you carry 5. I mean, if you're going, I guess you'd have to.
You'd have
right?
to. You'd have to carry 5.
Because if you're running the 3-4. So I'm going to go with Reese Maven. That'd be the first, and you cut 2.
Yep. Okay.
I think cornerbacks, this DB area is kind of going to be tough. DBs and safeties.
Yep.
That's going to be tough.
So Sutton, Jacobs, Branch, Harris are probably a lock at cornerback.
I'd agree. I think Stephen Gilmore makes the squad.
I hope he does. Now, let's look at how many we got. 23 was a magic number we had to get to, right?
Yep.
So 2, 4, 6. I think we overall cut the same number of people, but because you cut one more for one, and I cut another one for another, so I think we're at the same. So 2, 4, 6, 11, 12, 16, 19, 21, 22. We're at 22 already, dude. And
Okay.
and then if you come down here, Romo gets cut. There's 23, right?
Yeah.
So now we can look. If we want to keep Sutton, Jacobs, Branch, Harris, because Starling Thomas had a good, Lucas was good, Gilmore was good.
Yep.
Right? We cut Dorsey. There's another player, and then we can open up a spot somewhere else, potentially. Right? And then for safety, more than likely these 3 are in.
Yep.
And then there's 3 more potential cuts that you can look at, a spot somewhere else. But more than likely, they're going to keep more than just 3 safeties because they play a lot of 3 safety sets.
Yeah, and I'd say probably Brandon Joseph, but just because he's probably the more familiar name.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. But um, either way, right? Like, if they keep 4 safeties, that's 2 more gone. It opened up spots, 2 other somewhere else, right? So
Yeah.
now I can bring a guy back from the interior defensive line, right? So that would be
Right.
the Levi. I'd bring him back.
Yep.
And then, if you want to, you can never have enough pass rushers. And you could bring back, either Charles Harris or, Pascal or the other Aquara brother,
Yep.
right? Like, so these are, or, then again, do you want to keep Nowaski? Nowaski didn't have a terrible preseason either. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
And then I know it says Emmanuel Mosley and he's on the pup list, but he may end up on, if he's hurt, he could end up on IR.
right.
So you keep a guy, and then when he comes back off IR, you got to make that decision when you bring him back, of course. So
Right. So we might have 2 additional roster spots open because of him and the Hendon Hooker, right?
Yep.
So, but at any rate, that looks like what the roster is going to look like. I mean, and I'm just curious. To me, I think the biggest guys in the bubble is the biggest names, I should say, is Levi. I think he's a big name on the bubble, and
Yep.
I think the Okora brothers are big names in the bubble. Harris potentially on the bubble.
Yep.
And down here we're gonna keep all of our big linebackers,
Yeah.
and I hope Gilmore makes it. He had a great
Like
camp,
his
I
last
think.
2 games, his last 2 games were fantastic. I mean, he was tested a lot in those games.
Well, in the last game alone, he had 5 tackles, 4 passes defended, and that 11-yard interception.
Yeah.
So
So he had 2 interceptions in 2 weeks. I just, he's the guy I think you gotta find a spot for him, and I just you put him on the practice squad and he's gonna get plucked.
I think so too. And then Chase Lucas, he had the interception in the end zone that prevented a scoring drive.
Yep.
For Carolina. And he's actually played pretty decent. He got beat on a couple throws, but he's not going to be a starter either. But,
Yep.
but I mean, I think between Gilmore, Lucas, Thomas, these aren't bad reserves. So
No. So I was looking through an article, see if I'd like to try and show it to you, but it's from SB Nation. It's about the Lions bubble watch.
hmm
And it has the final roster bubble watch for offense. And do they have it on here for defense? No, it's just the offense. But like Ufedi, he already got cut. Most everyone says Chase Coda's gonna get cut. Dylan Drummond would make the team. Antoine Green is in. Jamar Jefferson, Snell, yep. And Sudfeld, all of the kind of a lot of the ones that we said were going to be out. Trinity Benson, Maurice Alexander.
yeah, Benson's already been cut.
Yep. But it didn't have. And my thing with the, because I talked about not keeping 3 tight ends.
Yeah.
I just not having that third, just because of the pass catching running backs that we have. The fullback can slide down and block on the end of the line kind of thing, right? He's more of an H-back kind of guy. I'm not sure that having the third guy on the active roster for a tight end is a necessity when we look at the other skill players that we would have. I don't know.
So here's this, right? They pretty much predict the Julian Aquara is out. James Houston's in. That's kind of what we both thought. Romeo Aquara is in. And we figured one of them would make it, right? So
Right.
Romeo, fine. Levi, they got in. And if they, I think he is probably the next defensive tackle to go. But currently, The way that we had went to the roster, I think he is indeed in. Covington's already cut. They got Benito Jones. Basically it's a split, right, half and half. I think Benito Jones is gone though. Jalen Hughes-Maben, we all think he's in. We all think Pittman's out. Almost everyone thinks Lucas is in. Everybody thinks Thomas is in. Almost everybody thinks Gilmore's in. Okay, Dorsey's out, kind of figured. Iffy, two people say he's out. We kind of figured Breeze would be out. Brandon Joseph is out. Parker Romo's out. And Patterson is in. So, that's kind of what we kind of assumed, right? For the most part.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if the Lions will cut to like 50 or 49 players, right? Mm-hmm. In anticipation of looking at other teams' players, like people who got cut, that they might think is a fit in Detroit.
No.
Or do you just cut to 53 and then you look up
and then make moves as necessary? Yeah. You cut to 53, and then if you want to sign somebody, then you cut somebody to sign somebody. Right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to take a chance on someone else, getting one of my guys.
Yeah. Well, no, because, you still, I think, because they've increased the roster size for the practice squad. I think they went from 7 to 10. I think, if I remember right, but...
I thought it's been 10 for a while.
Well... Practice squad.
Pretty sure.
Size. Oh, no, yeah. In 2014, it expanded to 10 players. The 2020 expanded it to 12, so it went from 10 to 12. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, being able to put a couple more players on there is nice, but again, practice squad players can get pulled to other teams.
Right.
They can't go from practice squad to practice squad. I don't think they have to be put on the active rosters.
Right.
But yeah. So most of the people who get paid to do this seem to agree with the players that they're going to be cutting. They agree with us.
It just the one thing about Levi that there's two things about Levi that I'm not impressed with, and why that I think he might be the next to go, even above Benito Jones. I think Benito Jones would stay before Levi, and it's mainly just due to one, his injury history has been bad, and then two is he's been so inconsistent. So even when he has played, just like in this preseason, there was the second preseason game, I believe it was. He played a ton of snaps and didn't even make the statistics sheet. No assists, no tackles, no passes batted, nothing. Just nothing. Right? If Levi came in, because I think Levi is talented, right? And if he comes in and he plays up to his potential, the guy could be just a big impact on this defensive line. But you can't depend on him game in and game out. And I don't think that's a Dan Campbell guy. I think a Dan Campbell guy is a guy that you can rely on and that's going to produce consistently for your team. And that's not Levi. So from my perspective and me trying to interpret what Campbell would like, that's why I kind of think that Levi is, one of those guys to go. That's all. So, but for the most part, that's what our predictions will be for the roster. We'll see just exactly how right we are, which more than likely will be really wrong, because why not? I don't know.
Yeah, right. We, so coming up, there's some, things we're going to be talking about. Our fantasy football league just started, so we'll talk some fantasy football because, it's a huge thing now. Not like it used to be in the olden days, back in the late 90s when I first started doing this.
Right.
So it is now, a really big deal, and we've got, so we got that to go over with. and talk about how our league is different than most leagues. And then we're just trying to, I don't know, quick hit insider feedback on, I'm saying really insider feedback, but just our thoughts on certain things that are happening around sports. I guess is the best way to put that, right?
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But yeah, that's kind of I guess what we've got coming up here. So we're gonna work on that.
But let us know, what did we get right, what did we get wrong about the roster? You know, because there's someone else you would have kept.
Yep, 4 p.m. on Tuesday is the final cut down time. So they got to have it down to 53 by then.
And we're recording this on Sunday night.
Sunday night, that's right. So, all right, well, I guess no sense in making something up just to make time go. We're 40 minutes in, so we did pretty good on this one, I thought, time-wise, and I think we should just move about our day.
Yep. So, thanks for watching. We appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next one.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening to No Pads Sports Talk. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. While you're at it, help spread the word by leaving a rating and review wherever you listen to podcasts. Follow us on social media at No Pads Sports Talk.